Glad to see everybody here. I'm Pat Franz from TerraCycle. We're in Portland, Oregon, and we manufacture all kinds of recumbent accessories. And my talk today is about accessorizing your trike, how to mount things on your trike, carry things on your trike, make your trike more usable, more fun, things like that. So, a few different categories of things. There's the handlebar area of your trike. There's lots of things that you might want to have there. Lights, both front and rear, very useful if you're riding after dark. Packs, bags, and baskets, how to carry things along with you. Hydration, how to carry bladders and bottles. Idlers and drivetrain, upgrades that you can do, changes you can make to the stock drivetrain if you want. Headrests and neck rests. Talk a little bit about some special needs things. Batteries and motors. That's evolved a lot, but we'll go a little bit faster through that. Flags and cameras. And then some things toward the end. We'll talk about dealing with different tube shapes on how to attach things to tubes that have weird shapes. Some readily available items that are very handy that can be repurposed. Describe different types of clamps. I mean, we've all seen clamps on things, but there's certain types that are better for certain things than others, and go through some of that. Real quick rundown of some of the clamps that we make. And then some other options in Velcro and zip tie. Everybody's aware of Velcro and zip tie, but there's some interesting things out there in Velcro and zip tie that a lot of people don't know about. So there's some samples of things floating around the audience here, and you can just take a look at them and pass them on, and I'll talk about several of them, as the talk progresses. But just pass them around, and then we'll collect them towards the back when it's done. So handlebar area, it's handy to be able to hold things like computers, cycle computers, phones, motor controllers, all kinds of stuff. One of the quickest, easiest ways is a simple ordinary bar end from the upright bike world. They're inexpensive. There's all kinds of lengths, angles, etc., and they're very reasonably priced, and they're very, very strong. So you can attach all kinds of things to them. There are some recumbent specific accessory mirror mounts. ICE makes one, showing here. We make some that clamp together, so that have a little bit more versatility. You can move things around longer and shorter and angles and things like that. And then we make a number of different clamps where you can just take a simple tube, like the one in the lower right is the controller for my lighted helmet. I have a Lumos helmet with turn signals, and so that's the turn signal control, and I just took one of our 7/8 to 7/8 clamps and a little piece of tube, and then I had a perfect place right by my thumb to do the turn signals. And so it can be as simple as that for some custom thing if you need something odd like turn signals for your helmet, for instance. We also make various things that either plug into the ends of your handlebars or attach to the ends of your handlebars. ICE makes a similar one that plugs on. This is one we call a mini T that actually plugs inside the handlebar. So if you have bar end shifters, you can't use it. But the one on the bottom clamps around the handlebar and has a tunnel for the bar end shifter cable. So you can still put it on the end of your handlebar and have an L T-shaped thing that's a few inches above your handlebar and a few inches ahead. So it's a perfect place for your phone or a cycle computer or motor controllers, things like that. And it's designed so that it angles slightly inwards, so as you reach up from the brake to shift, it's not in the way. We also make things called, we call them cockpit mounts, that clamp on with a couple of open clamps, so they're very easy to install. But they attach in the middle with a short tube so you can articulate it. and make it longer and shorter and swing it around obstacles. If you need to go around your brake levers or something like that, you can swing it around your brake levers. Let's see what else is here. There's some various examples. The one at the bottom is the TerraCycle's Versa bars, which is another thing that clamps onto your bars. With theirs, you can put a water bottle on it, and theirs is strong enough to use it as a mini exit assist as well. The ones we make are for light-duty accessories, so they're not made for exit assisting. We make a separate thing for that. Also in the handlebar area, some of the things we offer, this one in the upper left is our accessory mount, and it's got two arms that you can expand and contract them basically, so you can fit them a lot of different places. And because it triangulates to what it attaches to, it's very, very strong. So there's some various examples of that. This is a simple handlebar extender thing like the one that I use for my helmet turn signals. Several other companies make similar things to this in the middle from the upright bike world, and the one on the right is a Manura mount. Manura makes lots of different very versatile mounts. Computer mounts. Computers are pretty light. They don't need much to hold them. There's several things available for that. This is one that Greenspeed used to make. I don't know if they still make it, but again, Manura makes something. The one in the upper right is ICE's mount that goes on the water bottle, and you can still put a water bottle there, but it puts the computer behind it. This is I think it's called the knob. Very, very simple plastic things. This one in the middle zip ties on, and then the one on the right there is one of our accessory mounts attached to a water bottle mount to hold a computer. Just showing you some of the things you can do with that. The top right one is ICE's. Yeah, that's a standard item. They still make that. Did I go too far? No. The next one is there. So thing we came out a couple years ago with is we call it a bar end micro mount that actually replaces the funny bolt that's in a bar end shifter that holds a bar end shifter together. So it puts a small little knob right at the pivot point of a bar end shifter. So it's right where your thumb would be. So if you need motor control, throttle, or anything like that, it's a very convenient place to put that if you have bar end shifters. And since Shimano, Microshift, and SRAM are all different, we make different versions for all of those. And there's a sample of that going around the room here. I think the one that's going around the room is a Shimano. We make them in a couple of different lengths. Light mounting options. Topeak makes a nice little light mount that's pretty sturdy. Manura makes another one. You know, I'm sorry that the photos aren't lining up right. I did this in PowerPoint, and this is an open office version of it, and evidently they disagree on where the pictures should go. But again, Manura makes a very handy little mount that can go on a derailleur post. The one in the upper right there is Azub's. ICE makes a nice little mount for their derailleur post that has a water bottle spacing on it. You can put a little bar there, and then Bachetta, I don't know, is Bachetta still here?
Yeah.
Mark, do you guys still make the one-arm bandit? Is that still a thing?
We haven't run a production on that in a few years, so.
But if somebody wanted one, you'd be able to sell it to them?
We still have a few in stock.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have an 1 1/8 derailleur post, you can put one of those on.
Yep.
Yeah. Light mounting options from TerraCycle. In the front of your bike or trike, we have our accessory mounts again with the two arms that can telescope in and out, and they're quite versatile. You know, stick it on a fork leg of an upright bike, or on the far right there, that's a seat stay on an upright bike with a do not light that wants to be horizontal. And then for the rear, we make a new thing. It's a super simple thing with two plastic clamps that are kind of back to back to each other and holding a short tube. And with the combination of being able to rotate the plastic clamps around the tube you clamp to on the back of your bike and rotating the clamps around each other, you can always get a vertical post no matter what the angle of the tube is that you put it on. So it's very nice for, so many rear lights are made for seat posts of upright bikes, and so they're designed to go on something that's pretty much vertical. And so that lets you get a little vertical tube anywhere that you want to go. The clamps that we use are cat-eye plastic clamps. They're very, very strong. They make them in a lot of different sizes, and you just need to specify the size you want for the tube that you're going on. There's one of those going around the room too. And then that light that's on there is a cat-eye Rapidex light. And I wanted to mention those because those lights have an O-ring attachment, and they'll go from anything from 1/4 of an inch up to 1 1/8 with that same, well, they send you 2 O-rings to go along with it. But the very handy thing is going down to 1/4 of an inch, you can put one on a flagpole, and it gets a light up nice and high. And I noticed that there were several of those in the raffle prizes. So think about that. We also make a funny little thing that's just a heavy wall rubber tube, 1/4 inch ID, and we slice it, and you can snap it over a flagpole and put any conventional rear light on there. And you can also use a similar thing to go on the back of your rear rack. It's often difficult if you have a rear rack to try to attach a regular upright bike light to it. And rear racks have typically about 3/8 of an inch diameter tubes. And so we have a rubber tube that's 1 inch on the outside and 3/8 on the inside. And you snap it over your rack, and then you can put a regular rear light there. And it's nice and sturdy, and it's not like, you know, trying to use some L bracket off the back of the rack and stuff like that and get it lined up. You just snap it over and away you go. And the lower picture is one of the Rapidex lights on a flagpole. Light mounting options. If you have a fairing, we make a couple different light mounts that go on the sides of our fairings, so the light shines out outside the fairing. If you shine a light through the fairing, it tends to kind of disperse it, and the fairing will light up if the fairing gets wet. So days like today, when you get this little tiny drops of rain on it, when the light hits it, it'll basically bounce back. So having the light outside the fairing works well. What HP does is on their fairing, they cut a little hole in the front of the fairing, and you fit the light through that. Yeah, so the three on the right and the top are ours, and then this is HP's on there. Other light mounting options, using the little things that people use to attach computers and stuff on upright bikes. Manura makes one, and I think that's a Zeffel. They're really inexpensive, you know, $2, $3 sometimes. Okay, carrying packs, bags, and baskets. It's really nice to be able to carry things along with you when you're riding, and whether it's a jacket or there's lunch, or whether it's tools or, you know, spare tubes, or, you know, whatever, lip balm and cameras and all kinds of things people want to carry around. Rear racks from the upright bike world can often be pressed into service on a trike. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's difficult, depending on the brand. Several, like ICE has their own specific racks for their backs of their trikes, and HP and AZEB. But if you want to go with a regular upright bike rack, the thing to make sure of is that the rack doesn't put the load too far behind the rear wheel, because when you put the load behind the rear wheel, it tends to wag around, and it causes the trike to be tippier. So you want something that'll be able to move forward. So if you have an ICE or an HP, you can buy a custom rack, and it moves the load forward and lower. And then underseat racks, we make underseat racks for recumbent two-wheelers. We don't have anything for recumbent trikes yet. We're working on a rear rack for recumbent trikes. And TerraCycle, if you have a TerraCycle, they make a number of racks now, under seat racks for their trikes that put the load nice and low and centered. So if you're touring or something and you're really carrying a bunch of stuff, it doesn't affect the handling of the trike to have the weight low and centered. If you put big weights, on the high up on a rear rack, things get wobbly. But if you move the weight down low, it's much better. Seat side mounts, it's really super handy to have a bag right beside your seat that you can just access while you're riding. And there's a lot of great bags for upright bikes for handlebars, and that's generally what you wind up using because they're made to, the opening faces you when you flip it open, and you can just reach in and get your stuff. And a lot of them are waterproof. ICE makes a mount for the seat side bag that comes out and beside. We make a bunch of different ones that support lots of different bags. That's one of ours on an ICE. And then, okay, this one's an AZEB. AZEB's the other one that makes an under seat rack, or a seat side mount for their bikes. And we make ones that fit anybody's bike, anybody's trike rather. Frame packs, there's a number of different frame packs available. We make one that's pretty popular for trikes that goes under your boom. It's kind of an out-of-the-way place, and it's designed to carry a pump, a mini pump, plus basic necessities like a multi-tool and a couple of spare tubes, and it's got separate zipper pockets for keys and change and credit cards and things like that if you want to carry your stuff that way. Arkel makes some special bags for the backs of cat trikes that kind of nestle into the unsuspended cat trike rear frame. This is one of our packs here. It's called a Carbon Slim. It's made to go on the back of a carbon seat. So any carbon or hard shell seat it can be adapted to, and that bag is going around. And it has an optional tool pouch that's attached to it. And then for the backs of
there you go. And they're all
that's oh, everything's already been around. Okay. No?
It's still working.
Oh, okay. Well then,
Thank you.
pass it back around again. It should, yes. Yeah. It's designed to go tight to the back of a carbon seat because so many carbon seat bikes and trikes, the rear wheel comes up pretty close. So the bag is pretty thin. That one that's going around has an optional tool pouch attached to it for some extra capacity. So go ahead and pass them around kind of separately so people can kind of look at each thing individually rather than trying to pass on a big handful of things. So for the backs of like Bichettas and things like that, there's several different manufacturers that make a nice bag that attaches to the back of the rear seat. Saddlebags. If you've got a trike, saddlebags are a quick and easy way to add some storage. They just drape over the seat. Generally, it's just one big bag on each side, and there's a long zipper. And since it's angled, the heavy things kind of tend to go down to the bottom and the front. But it's super handy. You can just throw them on the trike, pick them up and take them off. A couple different manufacturers. The one on the left there is Smoky Mountain, made by Poweron. The ones in the middle is ICE's bags that I think Radical makes for you guys still. Yeah. And then that's a Radical bag there. There's been a couple handlebar bags made for recumbent bikes over the years, and that hasn't usually worked out so well. But Rand's made a little thing that was a mini fairing with a pocket. So that stuff's available, but generally you want to carry things elsewhere on your bike or trike. Baskets. Baskets are appealing for a lot of things. They're generally pretty heavy and pretty noisy and kind of difficult to attach to a bike or a trike. But I just mentioned that they're there. Over in the Netherlands, there's a guy named David Hembro that actually weaves custom willow baskets for recumbents. So if you really want to go all out, you can Google him up and he can make a basket for you. Idlers and chain control. It's not so much of an issue with current recumbent bikes and trikes, but it used to be that a lot of chain lines on recumbents could use some upgrades. The stock ones weren't quite what you might want. So that's kind of how we got into things originally a long time ago, making separate clamp-on idler mounts and a lot of different idlers where you could move where the idler was. So you could fine-tune where the chain went if you needed to, you know, shoot through between a couple tubes or just under the bottom of the seat or whatever. And we still make all those things and still, you know, sell them every day. But the need for that is a lot less than it used to be. But if you have an older bike or trike and you're restoring it and you want to improve the chain line or reduce the amount of chain tube or something like that, we make all kinds of clamps for idlers. Hydration. One of the easiest hydration things is just a standard water bottle for bikes. There's lots of great bottle cages out there. One of the issues is on a recumbent is how do you access the bottle, because generally the mounts are horizontal. And if your bottle's horizontal, it's harder to get in and out, and the bottle will drip and stuff like that. So there's a number of solutions for that. Ice makes a nice little angled one that bolts on, and that'll bolt on to anything that's got water bottle bosses. It doesn't have to be an ice. TerraCycle's makes one, and then we make one that has an arm that you can adjust from 45 degrees to vertical and will hold water bottles on both sides. So you can dial it in for, you know, wherever you need. Yeah.
What about combo bags?
That's coming up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And then ASAP has a very interesting one that attaches to the kingpins right by the front. So it's, you just reach right over and get your water bottle right over there. I don't think it works with anything else, but it works on the ASAPs. Okay, sticking on bottles for just another couple of slides. Some bikes and trikes don't have any water bottle mounts on them. And there are several solutions for that. One of the easiest ones is a thing called Click Fix, made by Rixson and Call. You can actually get them over here in the United States now. They sell them on Amazon even. And it's a very clever system where there's a stainless steel band that's smooth. There's no holes in it or anything like that. It's very clean. And you wrap it around the tube and you put it through this little buckle, and you put a plastic thing on top and tighten a bolt, and it tightens up the steel band and then grabs on. So if you have something like an HP or an ASAP that doesn't have any bottle bosses on the boom, and you'd like to put a bottle out there, they make a strap that's long enough to go all the way around a 60 millimeter tube. So it's a very, very handy way to do it. It's not super duper strong, so if you wanted to put like one of our mounts and put 2 bottles on it, that would be straining it, but it's very, very handy to go lots of places. And it'll go down to like a 3/4 inch tube if you wanted. There's lots of other solutions that go down to 3/4 of an inch, but getting up in the big tubes, that's the only one. No, that's too late. Fell already. Another thing that you can do, that you need to have a little bit of care about, is they make threaded inserts that are like pop rivets. And you drill a hole in something, you put this thing in, and you take a special tool and you crimp it, and it mushrooms it on the inside, and then you unscrew the tool out. A lot of bike shops have these, and if there's a low stress place on the frame or on the back of the seat or whatever, you can drill a couple holes at water bottle spacing, put in these inserts, and you'll have effectively a regular water bottle mount there. And if you look closely, the Catrike water bottle mount that's on their boom clamp, they use those for the actual threaded piece.
Let's take a big hole.
It's a fairly large hole. I think it's like a G drill, which is like 0.3 inches or something like that. So it's not super big, but you need to have some awareness of where the stresses are in the frame. And there are some places that you definitely wouldn't want to go drilling a hole. Other places it's not a problem. But so that's an option. And like I said, the tool is generally $15 or $20. Most bike shops will have one. They'll have the drill bits to do it, and you know, you can just ask them, get a recommendation of where would be safe to drill a hole in your frame if there is any place to do that. Hydration. There's lots of different hydration bladders out there, and they hold up to 3 liters generally. They're with a hose coming out, and they're very clever. You put the end of the hose in your mouth, and when you bite on it, it opens the valve, and you can suck the water out. So the problem is, how do you carry them? And we make a number of packs and bags that attach to the back of your seat for carrying them. There's also available from the upright bike world backpacks that are often quite reasonably priced, and with a little bit of hacking and sewing, you can make that backpack go on the back of your seat. So that's another option. Did that answer your questions about carrying bladders and stuff like that?
Bladders.
Bladders, yeah. There's lots of different brands of bladders. You'd want to shop around for one that you like the valve and the hose arrangement and stuff on. We sell Camelbacks. They have various ways of attaching to your clothes with a clipper, magnet, things like that. So I'm going to move on a little bit, speed things up a little bit. Neck rests. Several different manufacturers offer neck rests. Catrike and Ice and Azub and HP all have a neck rest option. We also make neck rests now, the Finer Recliner brand neck rests, and we make them to go on all kinds of things. If you...
Those are formerly the Crispy Steve. Right?
For the Crispy Steve Finer Recliner. The claim to fame on ours is Steve developed a memory foam insert that's curved, so that it's really thick too. So there's nothing but foam anywhere near your head, and considered very, very comfortable. And you can get custom embroidered covers for them. We do that. Special needs stuff. One of the most common things people would like is some way to help get up out of their trike. And so ICE has an option for that. HP has an option for that. I don't know if Azub has an option for that. It's Mike here. They do have that now. And then we have an option that works on several different trikes. We don't have it for ICEs or HPs because they have the independent steering. But they work great on Catrikes and Performers and things like that. Armrests, there's no commercial armrest that I know of, an actual armrest. Catrike has wrist rests, and ICE has wrist rests and stuff like that. But an actual armrest, if you need that for some reason, stroke or something, or you have some loss of function on one side. But they're custom made is how people have always done that, and still have to. We sell a number of pieces that you could use to tinker toy something together, but we don't actually have anything to do that.
What's the torso support?
The torso support, that was for someone with Parkinson's, and he loved to ride his trike, and riding his trike was great for him, but he would always slide off to the side. So that was actually made by somebody who used to sublet some shop space from us, made that for him. It's a piece of aluminum that bolts to the back of the seat. It just keeps him from sliding off. And he's been using that for years now. So, if you use a cane, there's several ways to carry canes. Generally, it involves getting a nice broom clamp for holding your broom to a wall, and you figure out a way to attach that to the back of your seat, and you put a little cup somewhere in the bottom of the seat, and you put your bottom of the cane in that, and then snap it up. And if it's on the back of your seat, it's generally high enough up so when you do stand, you can reach around and still get it. There's several options now in pedals and various ways of holding your feet on the pedal if you need help with that. And we're working on a pedal that has calf support as well. If problems with your leg, going off to the side where you need some calf support. So we're working on that. We don't have it yet. And Haza offers a number of things for special needs, including seat belts and harnesses and things like that if you have issues with staying on the seat. Controls. If you need help with controls, if your hands aren't strong enough to shift a bar end shifter or twist a twist grift, things like that, it's completely homebrew solutions at this point. There's no commercial things. On a bar end shifter, if you can find anything to make it bigger and fatter, that generally makes it easier to operate. And if you have to have twist grip, what most people wind up doing is attaching something to it to put knobs on it, to give you a little more to push against, so you don't have to squeeze so hard. And then the other option that used to be available, and I don't know if it still is, but some of the manufacturers make children's versions of shifters that have much softer clicks in them. The springs are softer and the deepens are smaller, and so they're easier to operate. But I don't know if it's still current. The last time I did that was about 10 years ago. Used one of those. Rear racks, batteries, sorry. You've got an electric system. Electric systems have come a long ways, and if you buy a system that comes with the trike, it'll generally have everything already done for you. But if you're rolling your own, something to watch out for. If you put your battery on your rear rack, it puts it up high, and generally will make the bike a little bit waggy in corners. And so we recommend putting it down lower and centered. So we make a bunch of different mounting options for that, for all kinds of different trikes. Batteries, still battery mounts. ICE and HP make very nice battery mounts for their battery mount systems that put things down low and centered. You hardly know the batteries there as far as handling goes. If you're rolling your own, this is kind of an old slide now. People don't do that anymore with the new battery packs. But if you just buy a bare brick of batteries that are all strapped together, a great way to do it is put in a sealed plastic box. As it turns out, this is the United States of America, and for about $6 you can buy a beautiful, sturdy, sealed box called an ammo box. And all you have to do is drill a few holes in it to get the wires out, and you've got a super tough box that you can strap all over the place. You know, run screws in to attach to a plate or whatever. They're made out of really tough plastic. So the $6 solution is pretty cool. This is an old one I should probably take out of this too. Back when people would be mounting motors onto the frames of their bikes and trikes, they'd be using things like U-bolts, which really put a lot of stress in one place on your frame, and it's not a great idea. So we make a bunch of heavy-duty clamps for other things that are useful for attaching motors and stuff. So I'm going to skip over that. That's flags. Generally, if you want to carry a flag, sometimes you can put it down the side of your seat. Even if it doesn't look like there's a hole there, you can generally make a hole at the top of your seat. If you have a trike that's got two tubes going up the side of the seat, so on a cat trike you can't do that. But you know, ice trikes and HPs and AZUBs are all that way, and there's a secret hole you can stuff a flag in. Cat trike makes a little mount. The other standard mount out there is cheap stamped steel ones for kids' bikes. I'd recommend avoiding those. We make a new little mount that's very, very versatile that again uses cat-eye clamps so that you can clamp it to almost any size of tube that you happen to have. Excuse me. And it's adjustable angle-wise so that if the tube is anywhere from vertical to horizontal, you can put one of those on it and hold the flag at an angle you'd like a flag at. And it's got a little rubber washer in there so that when you plug the pole in, it goes in and snaps into the rubber, and the rubber grips it. ICE has a nice flag mount now. It's been out for what, 4 years, 3 years? Something like that. That attaches to the back of the carbon seats, and then you have a clamp-on one that goes in the back of the mesh seats too, right? On a 1-inch tube. So if you've got a 1-inch tube, you can use an ICE one. Cat trikes happen to be 1-inch tubes too. So for cameras, Things like the manure mounts, things like our cockpit mounts. How am I doing on time? Any time now. I'll speed it up. And then we make a lot of different parts that you saw go by that you can tinker toy them together and make all kinds of things. Okay, if you want to clamp onto round things, there's lots of options. If you want to clamp onto oval things, it gets difficult the more oval it gets. Just leave it at that. And then square things, you'd think it would be very simple. Just put a couple plates and a couple bolts. But what happens is you can clamp it top and bottom, but it will rotate. So you've got to do something to key it in to keep it from rotating. Useful building blocks for making your own things. Stems, threadless stems for upright bikes. They're fairly inexpensive. If you want to clamp something that's 1 inch, 1.125 or 1.25 inches, they're totally awesome. You can clamp things that are smaller than that with shims, but you get a whole lot of strength, a whole lot of versatility for 15 or 20 bucks. And so that's a great way to go. We use those all the time on our neck rests and things like that. Hose clamps are very, very useful, very, very handy, kind of ugly. But if you get good ones, if you get marine grade ones, they're very, very strong. The ordinary ones you get at most auto parts stores tend to explode or the bands break. But you can get industrial strength ones that are extremely strong. Cat-eye clamps, I mentioned these before. They're very, very useful, lots of different sizes. They're very, very strong. We do a trick where we press a little aluminum bushing into them to give a flat face for something to attach, and it makes them very much more useful. P-clips, like down on the bottom, those are widely available in hardware stores, but they're not very strong and they tend to fatigue and crack. So I would recommend avoiding those if you can. Other things people have tried, there's various ways of holding pipes together to make railings and stuff. Those are big and ugly and put a lot of stress in things, and the sizes aren't right for regular tubing. They're made for pipes. Pipes and tubes are two different standards of sizes, and things won't mix. PVC tubing is also very intriguing. You can find it at any Home Depot. You can glue it together really easily, but PVC has the nasty habit of fatiguing and cracking, and so especially in the cold it will crack, so you don't want to use it for structural things. So we make tons of different clamps. So you can go on our website and look. Any of the things that we make, we will sell to you even if it's not individually available on the website. If you can tell us what it is. It's like, I want that clamp from this thing. It's like, yes, we'll price it out for you and sell it to you, but we haven't had time to put all the clamps on the website and fully describe them.
Customer support is very good.
Velcro and zip ties. This is going to be the last one real quick. So everybody's seen zip ties, everybody's seen Velcro, but there are several different kinds of zip ties out there, and the inexpensive ones you generally find at the hardware store or Home Depot are not nearly as strong as the industrial ones that you can find if you Google around a bit. And so you can get zip ties that are 1/2 inch wide and hold 200 pounds. The standard ones are rated 10 or 15 pounds, but you can get ones that look a lot like the standard ones that are rated 50 pounds. So if you get, well-made ones, it's worth it. They're not that much more. You do have to do some more searching around to find them. They also make zip ties in stainless steel. Those are a little bit harder to find, but they're very, very strong. And then Velcro. In the samples of stuff that was going around was a couple of loops of Velcro, and it's my favorite Velcro in the world. It's called Velcro One Wrap, and it's made by the Velcro company. And it's got molded hooks. They're not little loops that have been cut. It's got molded hooks, and it really, really grips really, really strong. You overlap it about 1 inch, and you can't pull it apart with your bare hands. Okay. So I don't see the Velcro there. I don't know if it's inside the bag. In the bag, okay. Anyway, if you had a chance to peel it apart and put it back together, it's just insanely strong Velcro.
Check your clothing, make sure it's not stuck to you.
Yeah, exactly. So the other thing with Velcro is Velcro has less grip when it's wet, especially the ones with the little monofilament loops. because the water basically lubricates it and it comes apart easier. The molded hooks come apart slightly easier, but still gain most of their strength. For scuba diving and stuff, they make stuff called scuba Velcro that if you've ever tried to take scuba Velcro apart while it's dry, it's almost impossible. But you know, if you're ride in the rain and you have stuff Velcroed on, be aware that it might start to come loose if it's not got the right kind of Velcro. So anyway, that's it. So hope you learned a few things.